Morning everyone, I'm Richard Maiden from Commerce Decisions. Thanks for joining us. We're pleased that this morning we've got Ben Farrelly from NHS England, who's Head of Procurement at the London Commissioning Board with us. Just before I hand over to Ben, I just want to position in terms of what Commerce Decisions do. So we're an organisation that provides an electronic evaluation tool called Award that's used on procurements that are various in shape and size. A lot of them are fairly complex, high in value. So although we work across NHS on a lot of clinical procurements, we're also involved in things like High Speed Rail 2, Crossrail. We've delivered on the Olympics as well, but predominantly in the procurement process and ultimately on the evaluation side of things. There's a couple of things around Ben's presentation that I wanted to highlight as well, which we're seeing a lot in a lot of ways across the public and private sector when it comes to procurement. So some of it's to do with delivering projects on time and also to do with the risk of legal challenge, which we're heavily involved in helping clients reduce. So we're quite risk averse as an organisation and also help projects get delivered on time and in line with EU regs. So for those of you that are involved in tenders, things like competitive dialogue, negotiated procedure all need to be delivered in a way that each step is managed, and that's where we come in with the award system and our services. So I'm going to hand over to Ben. We'll be on stand 13 after the session, so if anyone wants to come over and have a chat, then feel free to do so. Okay.
Morning everybody. As Richard said, my name is Ben Farrelly. I am Head of Procurement for NHS England in London only, so I only take responsibility for London, nowhere else in the country. If you've come in contact with NHS England procurement teams, it wasn't my fault. I only deal with London. That is, unless you were in London, then it was my fault. Okay. At NHS England, we were several PCTs. If you don't know, I will talk about it in a minute, but we were several commissioning organisations within the NHS. If you can't hear me, I will shout, but people do tell me I don't need a microphone. So we were NHS England, and bringing with it as a larger organisation, we do have lots of challenges, issues that we have tried to address. So NHS England is responsible for commissioning and delivery of primary care service. If you're not part of the NHS world, primary care services predominantly means, for us, GP practices, dental services, certain other public health areas such as screening, immunisation. We also do what's called health in the justice system, which means prison health, young offenders. Okay, so you can see that there's quite a few things, even though we're a small element of what is commissioned nowadays. Most of it's commissioned by CCGs. The CCGs are the clinical commissioning groups. What were the GP practices and out there in the primary world. They obviously can't look after their own contracts, which is why we deal with them in-house in the NHS England, but they do look after everything else that's commissioned. Okay, so they're the services that we, as a procurement team, and I use the team very smallly, have to look after. Okay, we in the London region, okay, this year alone, and I say this year, we're talking calendar years really, but as with all procurements, they span across, they just keep going, they keep rolling. So at the moment we've got, that's just increased now to 12 GP type contracts, let's just say GP, general practice type contracts, that's your high street doctor or this doctor on your housing estate, wherever you live. Okay, there's 10 of them, there's 10 dental contracts, they range from new dental practices all the way up to specialist orthodontic services, minor oral surgery services, so it's a complete mix there. We've got 7 procurements for health in the justice system, so they're prisons, Greenwich Prison, Belmarsh, they're the sort of prisons you may have heard of. So we've got 7 of them going on. They are big projects all on their own. Okay, and the public health team, Public Health England deliver for us, they deliver the screening, diabetic eye screening, immunisations, breast screening, bowel screening, all those sorts of things. Now those, when we're talking about those projects, we're talking about national influence. So we have to work as a procurement team and with commissioners, we have to work across with our national colleagues. Okay, so you can see that it's going to take a reasonable sized team to deliver 34 million pounds worth of procurement work this year. Okay, so the challenges we have to deliver that 33 million pound were 33 PCTs all becoming one. So a little bit of history, going back to when Conservatives came into party and they wanted to change the NHS and make it all much more streamlined and better, or save lots of money. Depends how you want to look at it. We were 33 PCTs, primary care trusts, inside London. Okay, within the M25, we were 33. Okay, we became one organisation. They stripped out, as I said, lots of the clinical commissioning work that was done, but they left us the types of work I've just shown you. But that's 33 lots of that, all coming into one. Okay, so we had to ensure we had a cohesive approach to the market. We couldn't go off doing little bits and bobs here and there with the individual teams. Okay, NHS England in London is made up of 3 area teams. Those 3 area teams are then, 2 of those area teams are then subdivided into mini area teams, if you like. So I have to work with, on the primary care, which is GP and dental side, I have to work with 5, if you like, commissioning bodies. Although we are all one big happy family, they're all these teams that want to deliver their own procurements. So we start talking about working at scale, looking at, rather than doing it for the 1 of the 5, we need to be looking at all 5 and saying what are they all doing, okay? And as a small team, we have to control multiple procurements. As I said, it's the health and justice system, it's the public health and all the primary care stuff. So they're the challenges my team has to deliver. And when I say my team, I do mean team in a little sense. So, at NHS England, as an organisation, procurement is increasing in size and number. So we had 33 PCTs. We then clustered up and we became smaller area, reasonable sized area teams, all doing their own GP practice procurements, their own dental procurements, our own health in the justice system procurements. Okay, so what happened all of a sudden, as we become one, we have to try and control it as one. So everything increases in size. Except for, funnily enough, the procurement team. In northwest London, where I originally started, we were a team of 2, me and the lady that works for me. Okay? We became NHS England London. We became a much bigger organisation. We became a team of 2. That was it. It was just the 2 of us, took on the whole of London. Okay? So we were like, well, hang on, there's no way we're going to do this. So we've had to go and get subcontracting organisations to support us. And I've had to beg, steal and borrow money to try and get some interim support as well, just to try and make it work. Because as you see, they're big projects. We can't do it on our own. Okay? So from that, new systems take time to deliver. So we use Award, that's why I'm here, but we use eBravo, which is a procurement system. Then we have other in-house project management systems. All that stuff takes time to teach other people how to use it. Yes, some of them have done procurements before, lots of them haven't. So all this takes the time to deliver all those projects with a resource that we don't really have. So that's why we've, a real issue has been for us and still is an issue for us, is delivering procurements. Okay? The other thing is, we were lots of organisations all coming into one, and then there was, when we were coming into one, they had this thing called MARS, Mutually Agreed Redundancy. That means we'll give you a package if you want to go. And a lot of the people that had been here a long time had said, you know what, been here a really long time here, got a really good pension, getting near to retirement age, yeah, I've had enough, I'm off. Okay, so we were left with a real mix of skills. Some new people coming in, some people promoted into positions all of a sudden, so that they didn't really have the skill sets for. Other people, a bit more, how can I put this politely, long in the tooth, they've been there, they've done that, can't be really bothered with procurement anymore. Okay, so we had a real mix of skill sets. So as well as having to deal with the resource and the increase, skill sets was a real issue for us, trying to manage people within the organisation, different expectations. And as I said, finances. There was no additional funding for resources. There was a national programme put out and we got given some We got given some subcontractors. Still wasn't enough though, so we've had to go and get admin support. Believe it or not, there was 2 of us for all those procurements and they gave us no admin. We had no admin whatsoever. So we've had to go and get our admin support and additional interim procurement advice as well, procurement support. So they're the issues we have. And the big one is, going back to the skill sets and resources, so many of the commissioners I spoke to when we first became one big happy family well, don't worry, I've done procurements before, Ben, it's not an issue. I know how to do it, just leave me to it and I'll get on and do my own thing. Have you ever tried doing that with commissioners that think they know their own thing? There's some commissioners out there that are excellent. And if you're a commissioner here, I apologise, but some of them are really, really good. They actually do get it. They get that we have to follow regulations. Lots of them think they get it and they really don't. And they're the really hard ones to manage, okay? So you can see with such a small team, it's like herding cats sometimes, it really is. So they're the issues we have. So the solution, so as I said, we've got procurement's increase in size and number to adopt a standard approach for similar procurements. So we've got 10 GP practices all wishing to procure at the same or similar times, okay? So what we had to do is we had to come up with a way of delivering it all at once, okay? And it's very, very simple, and I'm sure it'll be no surprise to anybody in here, we got standard sets of questions set up, okay? So when you're dealing with a GP practice, apart from talking about local demographics, the sorts of ethnicities, age groups, illnesses, types of different illnesses you would get into the local areas, apart from that, the GP practice is a GP practice. So I was like, well, hang on, it can't be that difficult to have a standardised set of questions. So myself and the senior team, we looked at it and we said, okay, let's get together a set of questions that will allow us to control more easily and keep all the other commissioners focused. And what that did was that made sure that all commissioners followed one process. They all understood, eventually, that there was only one set of questions. The memorandum of information was the same template. Yes, it was going to be slightly different because of the demographics and all those other things I've just mentioned for the prevalences within that area. There were some tweaks on the MOI. So a lot of the documentation we standardised to make it simpler for us. The other thing we did was if you have a pre-qualifying questionnaire, you would normally on procurement, you'd go and do one there for that procurement, you'd do another one for that procurement, another one for that procurement. But we had 10. Last year we had 7, so we had 10 PQQs to do for the same project. So what we did is we said, right, we're just going to do one PQQ. And we're sort of inspired really by the new EU regulations where it's talking about this new EU PQQ passport. So we did one PQQ and everybody just bid on that one PQQ. They filled out the pre-qualification questionnaire, and then within that we had a question that said, right, which one of these GP practices do you want to bid for? And they ticked the relevant boxes, and were they successful, we were able to do the analysis, filter them by saying, right, these people have gone for that procurement, these ones have gone for that procurement, and then what we did is we then took them all to the individual invitations to tender. But we did one PQQ right across all the GP practice. That standard approach saved us so much time and resource that we didn't have. As I said, resources is always an issue. So what we had to do is we had to get a bit more creative and a bit more firm, if you like. We had to utilise existing resources more effectively. And what that meant is saying to the commissioners, you know, we used to do everything for you. You used to hold your hand. We haven't got time to do that now. So what we want to do is we want you to do some of the work. Wow, you should have seen the look on their face. Me? Work? Procurement? I don't know anything about procurement. Or yeah, leave it to me, Ben, I'll do it all. So as I say, there was a real mix, okay? So we had to start getting them to look at different ways of doing things. Okay, and as I say, they all have their own approach to doing things. So we had to bring it all together and say, right, this is how you're going to do it. Now to do that, it wasn't easy because they all had their own ideas. When we first put a memorandum of information out, I said, right, here's your standard template. Off you go and fill it out. bring it back to me in 3 weeks' time. 3 weeks is loads of time for them. They had loads of information already filled out. All they had to do was fill in their bit, send it back to me. Sounds quite simple, really. There was, out of those 7 procurements, that was across 3 different areas. I got 3 different types of MOI back, believe it or not. They all said, nah, it doesn't work for me, I'm just going to change it. They really didn't get the concept of doing one standard approach. And why? Because when the market looks at it, and so you're bidding for 3 ITTs, you get 3 MOIs and they all look different. You go, hang on, this is the same organisation trying to deliver the same work. Yes, I expect to see different demographic information, deprivation and those sorts of things, but this is just all over the place. I can't follow it. It confuses the market. It makes it a lot harder for us as well. Okay, so we had to engage with our commissioners even more and say to them, great, thank you for filling out this memorandum of information. However, you didn't do what we said. This is why. So you really we were working constantly to deliver a standard approach, a cohesive approach. As I said, no finances for additional resources or support. So we used to utilise what we had in a more adaptable way. Okay, I did beg for money and I did get some money, but not a great deal. And we had to be realistic as well. I mean, for us, it was a really hard approach because we have traditionally always done most of it for them, held their hands, walked them along, do this now, do that now. Oh, don't worry, if you haven't got time, I'll do this. We had the luxury in the good old PCT days where you had I come from Essex, and in the North East Essex area, which was Colchester and its surrounding areas, so it's quite a small population of 300,000-ish. We had 3 procurement people, 3. Now I've got population of, what's London, 6 million is it or something? Or I don't know how big it is, but we've got 2, okay? So we had the time to spend and sit and work with these people, and it was hard for us to adjust ourselves to sort of say, well, hang on, actually, we physically haven't got time to do it. You know, you work in a 10, 12-hour day. I don't know, for some people that's not a long time, but when you have to travel 2 hours each way on the train, it can be a really long day. So we had to become facilitators as opposed to the doers, and we'd always traditionally been the doers, and it was really, really hard for us. Okay, so we had to get commissioners to get their buy-in. It was like, how do we sell this to commissioners within the organisation, sorry. And basically what we said was, although it was a bit like buy-in by stealth. So we knew what we wanted to do, we knew how we wanted to approach it, we knew what we needed to achieve and how we wanted to achieve it. We just had to get the commissioners to help us design it. So if they designed it, they owned it, they brought into it much easier. So what we had to do, as I say, it was by stealth because we knew exactly what we want to do. We just had to steer them in the right way so they designed exactly what we wanted. So they felt like owners of it. We're not there yet. It's still hard work. It's still a struggle with certain people within the organisation, but we're getting there. It really is that much harder. So how did we do that? Well, I've talked about the physical side of things, the documentation, the standardisation of this documentation, how we approached the commissioners on the limited resource we have, okay? What tools did we have to do that? Well, Bravo and Award. Bravo is, if you haven't come across it, is an e-procurement system. They do the procurement side of things, and Award deliver the evaluation side of things, as Richard says, okay? What that has allowed us to do, using both those tools, is we have been able to set up our procurements much, much quicker. Okay, so we have standardised templates on both systems. Okay, so when we're talking to customers, we can, or to bidders, sorry, we can email them through the system. It's secure. It allows us to keep a trace of everything that's going on. Only the procurement staff are allowed to engage with the customers. Therefore, we keep an audit trail because only the procurement staff run the procurement side of things, the procurement portal. And as far as Award goes, it just allows us to control everything that happens inside the evaluation process. There's no more sending out trees and and CDs and USB sticks as we are now, but it takes time, it takes resource to do all of that. You do it electronically, life is much, much simpler for us as a limited resource. Okay, so it does give us greater control over everything we do. So when we are saying to senior commissioners, our managers, a senior team, and we say, well, we need more money, we need more resource, the first thing they're going to say is, well, why do you want more resource? Well, we need to do this. Well, you can't have any more resource. That's great. I've got this ideal solution not to have more resource. Give me some more money for some licenses. Give me some more money for the software. And it doesn't cost as much as having all the physical resource in the building. It's not the perfect solution as far as more bodies on the ground. I would always like more bodies on the ground. I would always like to be able to do that. However, convincing the bosses, if we can press a button and show, look, this is what we've done, this is how we've done it, it just makes life so much simpler for us. It just helps us build our business case for more resources. Greater flexibility for the dispersed evaluators. As I said, we were 33 PTTs right across London. And whilst we're very fortunate within NHS England London, that we all work in this lovely building just down the road in Victoria called Southside, okay, where I sit on the 4th floor, my team sits on the 2nd floor, evaluators, the commissioning evaluators sit on the 2nd floor on the primary care side, they sit on the 4th floor for the other elements, okay? But when it comes to subject matter experts, in the good old days, when we were PCT, we'd have clinicians working in the building. We'd have HR supporting us. We'd have risk management supporting us. All of these people we don't have access to anymore. They're not there in the same way as they used to be. So now we have to buy in that resource. On the limited money we've got, we have to go and find a HR person, a risk manager. Clinicians, we have to buy GPs time to come and work with us. Whereas before we were one big happy family. They were part of the what was called GPC. They were in the building. We could just go along and say, have you got a GP that can help us with this project? They were there. We can't do that now. We've got 2 GPs that support us based in London and 1 clinical specialist nurse based in Manchester. We've got an estates person based in Manchester and another one based in South London. So you see, our HR person lives over in Colchester in Essex. They're all over the place. To pay for these people to come in to do a meeting costs us a fortune, okay? So we'd rather do it on a teleconference, or we'd rather do it just over email. When they evaluate, they don't have to be in the building to evaluate. When we moderate, they don't have to be in the building to moderate. They can do it externally, they can do it remotely. They just dial into the award system, do their bit, tell us what it's doing. We can see when they've done work. We don't have to be in the same building anymore. It just gives us much more flexibility with our evaluators. There you go, less trees felled, less stamps licked. Who remembers the days when you have to fill out all the envelopes, get to your bid, go out to the bidding organisations, and when you got it all back, you had to sift it all out, rearrange it all, fill out all the spreadsheets, then send them out all to your evaluators. They came back there, or if you were lucky, you could get them all in a room and do it all. You don't have to do any of that with e-systems, okay? And I do promote Award because I've been using Award for 6 years now, and I tell you what, it's just saved me so much time and energy, and I don't have to lick stamps either. Okay. When it comes to the reporting side of things, personally, I think this is where it really, really does pay dividends. Yes, on the evaluation side, but also on the procurement side of things, on the procurement portal part, when we get a challenge or we get audited as an NHS body, we always get audited, and they say, what about this, what about that? We can just press a few buttons, give them the reports that they want. It's fantastic. When it comes to the evaluating, when you're doing 10 GP practices across the whole of London, so you've got 10 lots of ITTs all coming in, you've got to make sure that the scoring is consistent. You've got to make sure that if Company A scores 60% on here for these questions, across these other 9 that they've also bid for, it's the same questions. Yes, some of the evaluators will be slightly different, okay, so you would expect some fluctuation in score, but only a small fluctuation in score. A lot of it will be the same. So you need to be able to analyse to make sure all across the scores, they're consistently scoring within the limit. Okay? And using online reporting, it's easy to do. It really makes my life so much simpler. Oh, we've talked about this already. So it's given us greater flexibility. One of the things we're able to do is, when we've got so many projects going on, health and justice system, GP practices, dental practices, I've only got so many licenses because I've only got so much money. So what I can do is I can deactivate a license for one evaluator and give it to another evaluator as soon as they've finished. So it does give me that flexibility. All procurement staff are able to run the same reports. We have a standard suite of reports. So when we say, right, we want a moderation report, they know what to do. They go in there and they press it. They don't go off and do their own little thing. They pull off the same report. So we get, again, consistency of reporting. As I described, we can get the comparisons right across various GP practices or prison services and all that. So when there is a discrepancy, when there is a challenge, we can pull up all the information and say, well, on this one you got this, and you got this, and this is why you did it, because we've got all of the evaluators and moderators' information in front of us. And it is flexible. It says it demonstrates flexibility for the evaluators. To me, that means it saves me money, okay? Purely because I don't have to have them all in the room at the same time. Yes, I do like to get them in the room just to see the whites of their eyes, but they can do it wherever they need to be, okay? When I was out in the south of France, I needed to do a bit of work. I was able to do it out there. It's web-based. That's it. Sorry, that was a whiz of the challenges of NHS England. Now, if any of you are public sector organisations, most of that won't be a surprise to you at all. In fact, no money, very little resource, and having to think of different ways to do things. No, thank you very much for your time.